Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 4 athletics week in, week out in the state of Idaho. Brandon Baney joined today by the grand host, Scott Burton.
What's going on there, Brandon?
What's up?
Oh, not much, man. Just getting ready to host another event tonight.
Yes.
So you see that, hence the name. You know, I was looking at my calendar and this month has been absolutely insane. I was looking at my calendar and tonight will be the 19th basketball game that I've hosted in my gym this month.
Wow.
Not to mention, wrestling and what else is going on? I've just been so consumed with basketball that, yeah, this is about the 19th game this month.
So Jerome, obviously you're hosting your own competitions when Jerome High School is involved, but in addition to that, you have taken on the responsibilities of hosting the 1A D1 District 4 girls and boys district tournaments, most of the action. Let me ask you, I wasn't planning on diving into this topic, but I think it's a good one for our audience to know. What is the incentive? What does Jerome High School get out of the deal with this? Obviously the schools get a neutral site to play at, but you as the athletic director at Jerome, what is the incentive to host these tournaments?
Well, and that's a good question. You know, I think, for us, we're going to, charge a little bit of rent so we can, take care of expenses. But it's more about us providing a really cool atmosphere for these 1A schools. They have loved it. I've loved it, and the thing is, I'm kind of a control freak. And so when these games are happening in my gym, I am there. I am on the mic. I'm doing all their PA. I am organizing lineups and I should not even be in the building. I should just give them the keys and then go enjoy my evening. But I can't sit back and do that. So I'm diving in, like I said, jumping on the PA, doing starting lineups, playing music because they don't bring bands, so creating an atmosphere for them. And I get more kind of enjoyment out of doing that and helping them out and providing that for them than any monetary stuff that they could give us. And, plus on top of that, the coaches in these 1A schools, I mean, I consider my friends, and I know several of them very well. And when they need help, you bet I'm going to jump in and do what I can to help them out. But the thing about Jerome, aside from having like a really cool gymnasium, is that when you come to Jerome in a regular season game, the atmosphere at Jerome is so phenomenal. I mean, we'll trot out, 75 cheerleaders. The band is rocking. Student bodies all dressed up in whatever theme night it is. And, fans on their feet to the fights. I mean, it is just a different atmosphere, and as much as I want to trot out all our cheer and band and everything I can. So I spin records. And the cool thing about it is that the speakers that we have in our gymnasium, for some reason, they don't play rap music. And it's funny because I'm playing like old rock and roll, right? I'm playing some 80s music, obviously playing the stadium hits and stuff like that. But man, I'm playing some good old classic rock and roll, some 80s. And I cannot tell you how many people after the game come to me and say, wow, great choice on the music. Man, the music rocked. Nobody says anything about the game. They're talking about the music. And I did that one time at a volleyball tournament we had, and one of the opposing coaches begged me for the playlist. And so I emailed the playlist. So it's been kind of a thing at Jerome when I'm running the show and there's no band, that I'm DJing as well. And the music choice, kids these days may not like it, but you know what? They're not running the show. The grand host is.
Yeah, I was going to say it's fans that are telling you nice choice, not players.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't trust the kids to play anything. I mean, you heard some of the crap that they listen to today. It's ridiculous. You know, I let once in a while, I'll let them plug their phone in, and I am like listening, and I've got my phone and I'm searching the lyrics as the song's going, trying to get ahead of it. I'm like, and that's too much stress for me. So I just unplug it and put on a little bit of rock and roll, and life is good again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know all of the schools at the 1A level appreciate Jerome stepping up and helping out. And you're right. It really is just building that goodwill throughout the Magic Valley. You know, one of your fellow 4A schools, and I won't say which one, over here in East Idaho, used to help out some of the 1A schools with volleyball and basketball districts. And then this year with volleyball, new AD came in, and from what I heard, kind of just pulled the rug out from under it and left these 1A schools in the lurch, where like 2 weeks before their districts, they're all of a sudden having to scramble and figure out, what are we going to do? And that's, you know, tough to see, obviously, but
yeah, that's not good. And plus you get an opportunity to show off your facilities and stuff like that. Now, granted, it doesn't come with its set of problems too, because, you know, there's been many of these nights that we don't have a custodial staff on. And so, you know, I'm down there mopping the floors, polishing the floors. And then afterwards, me and Ann, my secretary, we're out sweeping bleachers, mopping bleachers, cleaning bathrooms, changing toilet paper. I mean, we've been doing that all month long. And so, I mean, those are the things that are behind the scenes when we run an event here that people don't see. And we don't make a big deal out of it, because it's not about, you know, that, but it's about us making sure that even if we are the kind of the dirty hands, so to speak, and we're the ones doing it, that they have a great experience. So yeah, you bet. I've got my janitor keys and on my little shoot like this off my belt, and I'm taking out trash, and I'm mopping floors and whatever. I remember last week I was on the mic, and somebody right behind me spilled a drink. And so at a timeout, put the mic down, ran to the janitor closet, pulled out the mop, and I'm mopping. I've got the mic in one hand, I got the mop in the other, and made it work. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's funny for sure. You know, my high school basketball coach had the janitor's keys as well. He had one of those huge key rings that had there had to have been 300 keys on there. I have no idea what they were all to, but
and I guarantee he doesn't either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, pretty much. So let's talk about girls state basketball was last week. And the big story came at the 1A D1 tournament, which is appropriate because I feel like we've been talking about this league every single week on this show. Now, coming into state, most fans would tell you, oh, yeah, it's going to be two district rivals meeting up in the championship and, you know, for the fifth time this year. But everybody thought it was going to be Lapway and Prairie from the north. Neither one of those teams got there. Raft River knocked out Prairie in one semifinal. Oakley did what many people thought was unthinkable, to be honest, and they knocked off this Lapway juggernaut in an all-time defensive effort in the semifinal. So, hey, what do you know? Oakley and Raft River for a championship, this time in girls hoops, though.
Oh, wow. Haven't heard that song before.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what an accomplishment by both of those schools to really kind of flex their 1A D1 muscle too. I mean, and the thing about it was, I mean, I visited a little bit with the coach Bart Dieters this week about that and just kind of how it all played out. And, you know, when they knocked off Prairie, they beat Prairie first, right? So they're, you know, pretty excited. And I mean, like you said, everybody's thinking it's Lapway. And who are they playing? Probably Prairie. Well, Prairie's gone. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess Raft River, let's give Prairie or let's give Lapway our best shot now. You know, then all of a sudden, Oakley knocks off Lapway. And all of a sudden, Raft River is going, oh my goodness, we might be able to win state, you know, because this was a team they'd beaten already. And so that got the buzz going in Raft River a little bit. They didn't have to game plan. They didn't have to really watch much film. They just had to do what they had done a couple of times already. Now, Oakley in the regular season had beaten Raft River twice. You know, Raft River beat them 48-27 the opener or the first time, and then Oakley got them 41-34, and then Oakley got them 31-26. And then Raft River, even the series at 2-2, but won the game that mattered most. So congratulations to Raft River, and hats off to Oakley as well. Matt Payton does a great job with those Oakley girls, and even though they're taking home a color of a trophy they didn't want, nobody thought they were even going to get there, but they knocked off Lapway and got to the championship game. So great representation by District 4.
And the same thing happened last year at state, Scott, where Oakley had beaten Raft River in the regular season. Oakley had won the district title over Raft River, and then they got slotted against each other in the first round at state. It was that 4-5 matchup at state, and Raft River won the game that counted at state and got to the semifinals. So it's just funny how it's paralleled, and they did it again, except this time in the championship. So.
Yeah, it is. And when you have two of the best programs in the state, you're going to see each other. It's just foregone conclusion. And I'm just glad a District 4 team brought home the title. Very cool.
For sure. Caroline Schumann, the great center for Raft River, was named the MVP of the 1A D1 tournament by the IdahoSports.com broadcasters. Ryan Udy from Raft River was named sixth man of the tournament. And there were several other Raft River and Oakley selections. You can view the full team at our website, IdahoSports.com. It's right there on the homepage. The other big story that came from girls state basketball last week came at the 4A tournament. Scott, this is where I was broadcasting at, and Minico gets there, and Twin Falls was there as well. And I'll tell you what, Twin Falls, they went 2-0, but man, they never gave up in either of their games. They got down big against Shelley in the first round, but they never quit, and they kept fighting, and that served them well on their Friday game, where they hung tough with Pocatello for really 3 quarters and then just kind of ran out of steam in the fourth quarter. But I was very impressed with Twin Falls not having any players of any significant size. Their tallest player is 5'10".
Oh,
and
yeah.
For them to battle the way they did, even though they went 2-0, I thought was very impressive.
It is, and what you see when you get to these state tournaments, especially in the upper divisions 4 and 5, I mean, and you see it in the younger ones too, is that the teams that are winning, they've got a superstar. They have got just an all-American player or two, and they are undeniably the best people on the floor. Twin doesn't have that. They just got a bunch of girls that scrap and get after it. And, they've got their better players on their team, but no superstars. So they came in with sort of like a team mentality type of thing. And, 2-0, but fought and represented well as an 8 seed. We knew that whoever came out of that Twin Jerome game was going to be an 8 seed and was going to have an uphill battle, but showing a little bit of moxie, a little bit of fight was impressive.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget, too. Twin Falls lost the 2 players they were relying most on to play the post for them this year. One at the very end of volleyball season, and then Sydney Jund, second game of the year. Both blew out their knees, both done. And so, yeah, Twin Falls competed very well. Minico came to state, and right away, they got the team that would be the eventual champs, Sandpoint, in the 6 versus 3 matchup. Minico got down big. In the third quarter, Sandpoint had a 17-point lead, but Minico never quit, and they actually cut it to 3 with 7.2 seconds left and the ball. So Minico had the ball with a chance to tie the game against the eventual state champs. Now they turned it over. They turned it over at half court. Sandpoint made 2 free throws and won by 5. But for me, that really showed that 1 or 2 plays go another way, maybe it's Minico that's winning the state championship. Who knows, right?
Right. I mean, I don't think a lot of people gave District 4 that much props coming in, but and that Sandpoint team is funny because, that Sandpoint team got by Minico in that opening round, and then Sandpoint really looked awful against Columbia before taking down Shelley. And so I never did figure out that Sandpoint team. And but Minico, man, and you know what that does? It does speak volumes to the person that we're going to talk about. Because when you've got a superstar, and that's why I kind of led in with that Twin thing, when you have a superstar, and like Burley had with Amari Whiting last year, and they won state, like you see at like the Cannon girl from Shelley. Oh my gosh, the multiple ones we saw at the 5A level. I mean, they make everybody better. And this is what CJ Latta does for Minico. And so many times when she dumps in 25, it's such a quiet 25, you know, because it's looking like she's distributing the ball. Her teammates are involved. She's doing other things than scoring. And next thing you know, you blink and she's got 25. Like, wow, that was fast. But that's what natural scorers do. And nice segue into the accomplishment that she made.
Yeah, so that first game, CJ Latta drops in 32 points for Minico. They barely lose. Then the next day, they're having to play Blackfoot, the 2 seed, in a loser out game. No rest for the weary. Here you are playing Blackfoot, the 2 seed. Minico wins that game to stay alive. CJ Latta pours in 38 points in that game, and that's when my broadcast partner Sean Cannon and I kind of looked at each other and went, what was that record again? That record for most points in a single tournament? Because now that Minico's got this third game, really good chance to set the new record. And we figured out going into that third game against Pocatello on the last day, Saturday, CJ Latta only needed 17 points to set the new record, which, by the way, and of course she accomplished it. This record, Scott, has now been broken 3 times in the last 3 years by a Magic Valley player. Amari Whiting of Burley came along 3 years ago and did it. Then Amari broke all of her own records last year. And then this year it's CJ Latta.
Yeah, that's very cool. And when you think about that, it's, you talk about those superstar players and last 3 years right out of the Magic Valley. And, CJ had a chance to visit with her a little bit this week. And, and plus I know her family well and they're rivals of ours because of Minico and Jerome or whatever. And her dad, Steve's a basketball official as well, as also their head volleyball coach and one of their basketball. Anyway, so everybody knows everybody. And you look at CJ and it's I just find it so funny because she just doesn't look like an imposing basketball player. She plays with her glasses and you don't think much of it. And then she gets out there and absolutely dominates. And she does it in a way that isn't flashy or showy or, self-promoting or any of that stuff. And that's why a lot of times it's really quiet because she just scores and then that's it, right? There's no massive celebration. There's no nothing. And so one of the things that you learn about CJ along the way over the years is that, she a great player, obviously, but she's really humble. She's not one to, like I said, to self-promote. And, asked her a little bit this week about, well, gosh, what were you thinking about the record? I mean, at what point did it kind of become something to you? And it was after that second game when somebody said something to her. It wasn't that she sought out a record or even knew what it was. But some people came up to her and said, hey, listen here, you've just now beaten Blackfoot. You're going to play 3 games. You score X amount of points. It's going to be whatever, and so kind of the weird thing was going into it, she wasn't too concerned about it. If things broke their way, then she got it. Great. If not, but, she said that her concern was really trying to win that game for the seniors that were on the team. And Carly's just a junior, so she was really trying to play for those seniors. And I don't think she was at the record yet when and you were there, so correct me if I'm wrong, when the game really kind of became decided, she wasn't on the record yet. Is that correct? And then all of a sudden it became in the crosshairs and they said, let's go get it.
Yes, that was my understanding. So I had to split away to cover other loser out games that day. But yes, that is what my understanding was. It was not till late.
Right.
And then she kind of went into, her overdrive and got it. And so she finishes with 95 total points at the tournament, new record, and also averaged, 31, 32 points per game, which was also a new state tournament record. So pretty impressive.
Oh my word. I mean, just an absolute scoring machine. She's tall enough to where she can get it done in the paint. She can shoot the 3 and she's just really one of those tough matchups to guard. I mean, people have tried 100 different ways to stop her, whether it's denying her the basketball, which doesn't work because she's too athletic and gets the ball. People have tried to double team her and just take her completely out of the game. That's probably the best solution. But then again, you're given something else along the way. She's just that good. There are players that you shut down and there's players that you can't shut down. And she's one that you can't, because everybody coming in, whether it was Sandpoint or Blackfoot or Pocatello, they knew who they had to stop, and they didn't do it, obviously.
Yeah. So a couple of anecdotes about CJ from my perspective. So the very first basketball game I ever did for IdahoSports.com, Scott, was during CJ's freshman year at Minico.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing at Idaho Falls. This is when Idaho Falls was a 4A school. It was the fourth game of the season, fourth game of CJ's career. And she's starting as a freshman. So obviously Minico goes over there. They lose by like 9, I think. But I mean, from that first time I saw her play,
mm-hmm.
the way she handled the ball as the point guard, I was like, freshmen don't do this. Freshmen don't have dribble moves like this. Like, she's only going to get better, and she's going to be a big time prospect if she continues to develop. And
yeah, you know what? And you made a good point, and that's what a lot of these kids don't understand, is that you want to score, then you better do more than shoot the basketball. You better be able to dribble the basketball. If you can't handle the ball, then you're not going to score. And a lot of these kids are out there just thinking, well, I'm just going to camp at the 3, or I'm just going to work on my shot. Fine. Then you become so easy to game plan for. They'll take you out of the game in a heartbeat. But if you can handle the basketball, then all of a sudden you are a whole different kind of weapon. And that's what these players do. And so you look at those superstars that we keep talking about, whether it's Amari Whiting, whether it's CJ Latta, or some of the others that we mentioned that I saw at the 5As. Every single one of them can handle the basketball. They can shoot it, don't get me wrong, but they can handle the basketball. That is the one thing that those kids need to learn how to do before anything else.
Yeah. And every Minico boys game that I was at this year, Scott, who's in the front row of the student section, CJ and her teammates, which I love to see. And they'll probably be at state cheering on the Minico boys as well. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then, the glasses, right? You watch her and she wears those glasses all the time, whether she's in class, on the court. She keeps them tucked in with the big headband. And talking to Coach Anna Bateman from Minico, she goes, I have tried to get her to ditch those things, because there's been games where they get bent and they get broken, and she's got to come out and we just put tape on it and we send her back in. And
and you'd have to think that your peripheral vision sometimes suffers, and you sweat. Next thing, you got a thing of sweat coming down. And that's one of the things that impresses me most about her is not shooting ball, is how in the heck do you manage to play in those things and be as good as you are? It's crazy to me.
Yeah. So there were a couple of different Big Sky schools that are interested, Northern Arizona, Idaho, a couple others, and they came to Minico to watch her play this year. And I asked Coach Bateman about that too. I said, where do you fall on that? Because some coaches like it and some coaches go, oh man, that's a big distraction and I don't need this around my team. And Anna said that she loves it because every player gets fired up and says, all right, let's go put on a show for these college recruiters. And so she leans into it and embraces it.
Good. Yeah. And that's the other question I asked CJ too, is like, where do you see yourself going? Do you have any idea? And again, she's only a junior, but she has no clue yet. Yeah. So she is still being courted and recruited. So we'll see what happens next year.
Well, I'll tell you, if Amber Whiting at BYU was smart, she's already got Scott. She's already signed Brindley Cannon from Shelley, who's a junior, and Cambry Barber from Rigby, who's a junior. They both committed to BYU. So Amber's just kind of quietly getting Idaho's best players to come to BYU. So
well, and CJ would be, imagine the backcourt of Whiting and CJ, and Cannon can be a part of that too, and Barber. The funny thing is, all 4 of those people you just mentioned, they're the team's best players that they were on, and they can all handle the basketball. So you don't recruit just a pure shooter. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that would be fun to see her at the next level.
Yeah, pretty epic. So great tournament for CJ Latta. Congrats to her and Minico as well for winning that consolation trophy and bringing that back. Minico also in the headlines this week. Scott, state wrestling, of course, gets underway. It's over in Boise this year, and Minico, the heavy favorite to win the 4A championship. You know, talking on our Mat Chat Prepcast, our Idaho, our wrestling only podcast, basically the thought was Minico's got such depth and such numbers that maybe the only team that has an outside shot is Bishop Kelly, because Bishop Kelly's they're really top heavy. They've got really good, a good 6 or 7, but they don't have the numbers. But BK would need to be perfect almost to knock out Minico.
Oh, no question about it. BK is returning a ton of people, and Minico they qualified 24. They've got 10 returning state placers, and you just don't get that, and it is their depth. I mean, you look at the top teams in 4A at the state wrestling tournament. I mean, a lot of times it's the same teams. You get the Minicos, the Caldwells, Bishop Kelly's kind of getting in there. The Jerome's in there once in a while, has been in there lately. Blackfoot, whatever. But with Minico's 24 qualifiers, and you're looking at a lot of those teams I just mentioned, the next most is 15. I mean, they've got 9 more qualifiers than Bishop Kelly's got 15. With 4 returning state placers. And if they're going to challenge with 15 and 4, they're going to have to beat Minico with 24 and 10. Yeah. And so, good luck. Minico is the heavy favorite.
Yep. So we'll keep an eye on that. Buell expected to do well at the 3A, Declo at the 2A, 1A as well from the Magic Valley. All right, let's talk boys basketball, where the story of the night. And again, we will, if you're watching this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, you will see these brackets up on the screen. I'll share my screen and put the brackets up. Make your screen full size. It's a little easier to see. If you're listening at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, no worries. You can follow along. We've got the district brackets on the homepage at IdahoSports.com as well. Well, the Great Basin Conference, Minico is your district champion, Scott. They beat Twin Falls last night. In a kind of a low-scoring game by 6, I believe, 6 or 7. And talking to Brady Trankel, the Minico coach, he said, our team cannot win at home for whatever reason. They really did struggle at home this year, but here they are. A win at Jerome in the semis, a win at Twin Falls in the championship, and the Road Warriors, Minico going to state.
Yeah, it's funny, the kind of the ebbs and flows of this conference this year, because at the beginning of the year, it was supposed to be Twin and Minico and Twin. I mean, and then it was everybody else. And the way that this conference shook out was just incredible, with the amount of parity. I mean, from top to bottom, you would play late in the season, and this is no joke. I mean, you'd win a conference game, you would be the 1 or 2 seed at that moment. But if you lost that conference game, you would fall all the way to the 6th seed. So it was just, you didn't know where you stood until the dust cleared and the schedule was finished. But it's funny how it turned out. Twin and Minico, the preseason favorites, are the ones that ended up in the championship game. And Minico, with their style of defense and the way they just play basketball, is so different. They don't have that superstar. Brevin is the guy that kind of drives the bus for them, but it's not about the superstar or shooting or scoring. They junk it up and muck it up and physical you up. And they play a brand of basketball that if you're not used to, it's going to give you some problems. And the thing about Minico going to state is they may have a really good chance to represent well, just because defense travels. You're going to get teams that are going to miss shots, and Minico has a lot to do with other teams missing shots because they are so physical. They do not allow points in the paint, period. And so you better be shooting the basketball well. And I'm interested to see what they do at state. And I don't know what they're going to go in as, maybe a 4.
So right now, our bracketology, that's a good reminder. We do our daily boys basketball bracketology, where I go in and update all the who's officially clinched, what are the matchups, what are the projections. Right now, Minico projected to be a 6 seed. Twin Falls, if they got there, would be a 5 seed. Twin actually had a better max preps rating than Minico this year.
Yeah, and here's the problem.
Yeah, right.
Don't get me started. Okay, I'm started. So here's the deal. How is that even possible? Because the problem is it takes into consideration regular season only. It doesn't take into consideration the district tournaments. And you can get a team that just lost their mojo in the district tournament. We saw it at the 5A girls with Thunder Ridge, undefeated all season, lose twice in the district tournament, had a lot of stuff going on, and they were fading fast, yet they came in at a number 2. And anybody at that tournament could have told you, no, that is not a number 2 right now. But based on the regular season, yeah, why not? Same thing here. All it would take is to, number one, if you're not going to include the postseason, then have a little bit of a human interaction with it. So you can say, okay, now hold on. Minico just beat Twin. Their style of basketball is really physical, whatever it is. And I think you could maybe adjust some of these things a little bit better. That's not a knock against Twin, but Minico's a district champ.
Right. To me, the solution is simple. And you tell me if I'm way off on this, but the very first year that they did the Max Preps rankings for football, so not this past season, but 2 years ago, Class 4A specifically said in football, our 5 district champions are automatically going to be the top 5 seeds. Now, we'll seed them based on their Max Preps ranking, but the 5 district champs automatically get the top 5 seeds, and that rewards then your district champs. And then from there, we'll fill in the rest on Max Preps. Could we not do that where we just take the 5 district champions and seed them 1 through 5 based on Max Preps? And then if you got a second bid from your district, you're automatically 6, 7, and 8. And if you're lamenting, oh, but we were really 2 in the regular season, well, too bad. You should have won districts.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you definitely could, because I think, there's a lot to be said about how a team finishes coming into the state tournament. You want a team that's hot. You want a team that's playing well, not a team that just survived and got into a play-in game when they should have won the whole thing anyway, or whatever the case is. That says a lot about a team coming in, because it's so difficult just to hit a reset button. And coaches try to do it all the time. I mean, it's the old cliche, guys, we're 0-0 now. Forget about the regular season. Forget we just lost in the district championship game and we were undefeated up until that. But whatever. It is so hard mentally to just hit reset and go, yeah, forget it. I'm not going to think about that loss, or whatever the turmoil and strife and struggle is going on with my team right now. It's hard to just reset everything after you just had a long, grueling 2.5 months of basketball. So, yeah, no, I think there's ways to make it better. Definitely better than what we had, but yes. I think it still needs to be worked on and discussed to make it better. Now, whether or not I'm just causing an issue, I don't know, but I saw it so bad at the 5A girls tournament this year when, and not to jump way off topic, but Boise comes in as a number 4, and they were not a number 4. Anybody could have told you that. They were a 1B right behind Coeur d'Alene. And if you need any proof of that, go back and listen to the double overtime thriller instant classic that we called on Idaho Sports between Coeur d'Alene and Boise. And then championship game was a 40-point blowout.
That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, I know. How bad do I want to rock this boat right now? So I just think that we can continue to explore ways to make it even better. We're on the right track.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not totally bagging the system. We're on the right track. Let's be open to discussion on how to even make it better.
Yeah, I know. I've heard some Boise area coaches talk about, why can't we just get on the phone and seed it? That's what they do for tennis. That's what they do for wrestling, right? Yeah. They get on the phone and talk it over and seed it. So I don't know. There is, though, and it'll be discussed, I think, in April at the IHSAA's April meeting, and we will wait and see what happens there. But okay, back to this district bracket.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's all right. We do this sometimes. We kind of veer off, but it's always for good reasons. So Minico wins 49-41 over Twin. JT Garza, 19 points for the Spartans last night. Mm-hmm. Riker Stimson had 17. Notice how neither one of those guys is named Brevin Trankel. So if both of those guys can keep doing that, and then Brevin just chips in and is the distributor, floor leader that he is, yeah, I don't know. Minico could be a tricky opponent at state, certainly. Now
they could, and I think the big thing for Minico is Brevin cannot be their top scorer.
Right.
I think they're better without him scoring as much because that supporting cast will stand around and watch him, and then next thing you know, there's no fluidity and continuity. But when he is just a general, like you said, and distributing, everybody around him gets better because they do have some pieces, and they're always going to play defense. So. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So now it comes down to Friday night at Twin, 6 p.m. showdown, Jerome and Twin Falls for the second bid to state. Scott, how do you see this game shaking out?
Phew. These two teams are about as even as you can get. They split during the regular season. And we won over there. They won over here. For some reason, we play better on the road as well. It seems like, but I mean, I think the matchup is tight. Twins got those 3 scorers that can just light it up at any time, and so if they get going, then they can make a long night for anybody. But again, here comes 2 teams that know each other really well, and you can bet that it's going to be a tight game, and I wouldn't be surprised one way or the other how it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting mix, and Prusel especially have been playing really well for Twin down the stretch here. I think an important guy for Jerome is going to be Likely because he's got some size at least. And if he can get going a little bit, another big piece for Jerome. But
it's the thing about Jerome is they just have got like all these different role players and not the superstar, right? Because their superstar is out with a knee injury. Right. And hasn't played all year. So they're trying to figure out how to get it done with really one guy having any experience at all. If you would have told Coach Messick or anybody at Jerome that you would have won 15 games this year and be playing in a game to go to state, they would have thought you were crazy at the beginning of the season. So they have overachieved. And hopefully they're not just happy with that, which I know they're not, but they're not supposed to be where they're at. So, But it's going to be a good game. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out Friday night. The 3A District 4 championship was last night as well. Buell, the 2 seed, wins districts there, 58-52 over Kimberly. Kimberly was the 1 seed, and Buell got him in the undefeated semifinal last week, 51-50, and then Buell wins the outright championship. Now, if Kimberly had won that, it would have forced the winner take all if necessary game on Thursday night. And I guess my point here, Scott, is if both teams were going to advance to state anyways, right? Buell and Kimberly, both that district gets 2 bids this year, and they're already locked in to their Max Preps rankings based on the regular season. Why play the game? What's the point?
Right, because it's not seeding anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't have any impact on anything. They're both going to state. And the only reason I bring this up is because there was a really tragic situation that happened about 10 days ago over in the Treasure Valley, where you had Greenleaf Friends Academy, a 1A D1 school, playing in their district championship game. And I'm sure most of our listeners at least know a little bit about this story, but maybe not. They're coached by a husband and wife duo, Jim and Loma Biddick. Loma is the head volleyball coach, and then she's an assistant girls basketball coach, and her husband, Jim, is the head coach. They were on their way to the school to get the bus ready to go to Columbia High School for the championship. And they were hit by a driver. I don't know if he ran a stop sign or something. It wasn't their fault, but neither one was wearing their seatbelt, and Loma, passes away. Jim is still in the hospital because of very, severe injuries. And this is during the 3rd place game at districts. This is all kind of trickling into the arena. And so basically they get together with Liberty Charter, the other school, and they go, hey, look, we're both going to state. What's the point of playing this game? Let's just call it a no contest and let's both go to state. And that's what they ended up doing. And it was the right thing. Sure. So obviously we don't hope that situation ever repeats itself again, but it does bring up a question of, what if somebody got hurt in one of these games? Mm-hmm. It's a meaningless game, essentially.
Yeah. You're playing for your district championship, and that's all you're playing for. Now, that I don't mean to make light of that, but there's bigger prizes awaiting. and it does raise a good question, because back in the day where we had the other system, and there was 2 teams going, it really, because you had you would have the ping pong balls, 4A would play 3C and whatever. And we had teams that would go into these types of games and throw them and lose on purpose, just so they had a better side of the bracket, because they knew how the bracket was shaping up. Like, well, I don't want to go up there and play that team. I think we're going to lose this one. And I remember coaching, girls varsity one time, and we had a team come down and play us for a seeding game, and they absolutely tanked the game on purpose because they wanted that particular side of the bracket. So, but yeah, no, it does raise a good question. And the other question too, not taking anything away from Buell and Kimberly, but you're looking at a conference here that didn't have a team with a winning record, and people are going to talk about that one as well. And especially when you look at Marsh Valley and Teton that are going to have to play each other tonight. One of them is going to have their season come to an end. And you're talking about the number 2 ranked and the number 3 ranked team in 3A, both with 18 wins and 19 wins, and unfortunately these things happen.
Yeah. And that's, I've talked about this on my East Idaho Prepcast about why don't they just combine? Why don't District 5 and 6 just combine? They're 2 separate 3-team leagues. Why wouldn't they just make a 6-team league? Because then you're going to get, probably better representation at state, since it's a bigger conference. But in the process of, we want to protect for our own interests, you've now lost basically, a really good team is going to be sitting at home because of that. So
yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if they've got enough animosity between District 5 and 6. They just don't want to do it. I have no idea.
Maybe they all end up playing each other anyways in non-conference. Yeah. So I mean, why not just make it anyways? That's another topic for another day.
I know we are like ADD kids. We're just bouncing on. Do you want to ride bikes, Brandon? Let's go.
Yeah, right. Okay. So anyways, Buell and Kimberly are in. They are going to be the 7 and 8 seeds at the 3A state tournament. Like you mentioned, Scott, sub 500 records. Okay, let's talk about 2A. This was settled pretty early last Wednesday. In fact, I believe the Declo Hornets were the first team to officially clinch a spot at state anywhere. They are taking on Wendell in this best of 3 game championship series. Wendell got the 1 seed. They both tied in the regular season, right? They both beat each other. Wendell got the 1 seed on the tiebreaker. Declo comes in and wins the first game in Wendell in overtime, 55-51. They played really well down the stretch. And I think at that point, Declo just had all the momentum. The series then got to shift to Declo. They end up winning by 10 over Wendell. And so now it's Declo advancing to state, and Wendell, this team we were pretty high on, kind of just ran out of steam at the end of the season.
Yeah, they did. And, those 4 games that they played against each other, they played 3 extra sessions. The one in the district tournament, and then the 2 overtime thriller that Wendell won late in the season. So these 2 teams were just even all year long, and it just became who was playing the hottest basketball at the time. And you're right, Wendell faded just enough, and Declo took advantage of it. So congratulations to them.
Yep, congratulations to Declo. It looks like at the 2A state tournament, Declo is probably going to be that 8 seed overall. But the good news is that, to me, the 2A is the most wide open. Melba's 23-0, but they've been pushed this year. So, we will wait and see there. 1A D1. The championship game was on Tuesday night at CSI. You had 1 versus 2, Castleford and Cary. Cary gets a very tight win, 53-51. So I think for Dick Simpson's been coaching Cary now for 30 years. And I think 27 of the 30 years he's taken Cary to state. It's something like that. The numbers might be a little bit off, but it's something 85% of the time he's got Cary at state. And guess what? He did it again.
Yeah, and even though stepping up a division, because they were 1A D2 for the longest time, right?
Right.
And Cary scores on a last second coast to coast drive by Carson Perks. Who else? And the media interviewed him afterwards, and he was like, as soon as I got that ball, I wasn't going to give it up. I'm going to the rim. And it was a tie game at the time. So he knew that he wanted to be the guy, and it wasn't a selfish thing. It was more like, hey, I know I can do this. And if I get to the rim, I know I can score it, or I'll get fouled and I know I can make a free throw. So he went all the way coast to coast, got the bucket, and Kerry got the win. Now that sets up a really interesting matchup tonight for that second spot at state. And that's the game that I'm getting ready for tonight at 7:00 between Valley, the number 6 seed, and Castleford, the number 1 seed. And don't look at 6-1, because I tell you what, Valley is playing some really good basketball right now.
Yes. And this backside of the bracket, we talked about how there was like a 4-way tie, right, for 6th through 3rd place in this district. And that bore out. I mean, look at what we had in the 3rd, 4th. We had a 5 and a 6 playing Lighthouse Christian and Valley. Valley wins that game 54-48. And now you're talking about Castleford had a really nice regular season, Scott. When you look at the conference standings, they were the best team. They were the number 1 overall seed. Castleford went 7-1 in league. Their lone loss came to, checks notes.
Yep.
That Valley.
Yes. Yep. There it is right there. Got it right there. 56-40. And it was a big win for Valley. You know, so you look at this, and the thing that intrigues me the most is the mental side of things. Just because you've got Valley, who's hot. They're playing way better than a 6. You know, I was surprised they actually took down Lighthouse, because I had seen Lighthouse play a couple of times, and you know, when they beat Murtaugh, I mean, it was dominating. Yamada just had him rolling. If you haven't seen that kid play, and he's playing well, he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, how is Valley going to control him? And I'll be danged if they didn't get it done. And so that just goes to show that Brian Hardy has got that Valley Viking squad playing super well. So the mental side of it is you've got Valley coming in, rolling right now. You've got Castleford coming off of a loss, and the only conference loss they have is to Valley. So you know those things are rattling around up there. How are they going to come into tonight? I'm interested to see, and I'll be there courtside.
Yeah, it's going to be a great battle for sure. Yeah, and you'll remember, I think I mentioned it on this Prepcast a couple of weeks ago, you know, talking to some Lapway fans up north. You know, when you look at 1A D1 basketball in general, Lapway is the big juggernaut. And Lapway fans kind of told me the one team that they have been watching all year and think could give them a good challenge is Valley. That's the team that Lapway has kind of been talking about and circling. So
yeah, it's crazy, because I mean, I don't know how Valley got on their radar. You know, they're not even ranked in the media poll or the latest coaches poll. Castleford's the number 5 team, you know, but this conference has really been quite competitive. But yeah, I'm really interested to know how Valley got on Lapway's radar, because there's not many teams that do, you know, including many 5A teams that have taken a shellacking by Lapway. So yeah, well, we'll see if Valley gets that shot or not.
Man, that'll be a fun game tonight for sure. And then finally at the 1A D2 tournament, we talked about this all year. Camas County, Richfield, 2 top 5 teams. Only 1 team gets to go. You know, I think we kind of forgot about Dietrich a little bit as well. Dietrich also a very good team where they have pushed Richfield a couple of times. You know, that first round matchup between Richfield and Dietrich ended up being a 6-point win for Richfield, 74-68. And then you had the undefeated semifinal between Camas County and Richfield. That was a 6-point win for the Mushers. And then basically in the 3rd place game Tuesday night, Dietrich again pushes Richfield. Richfield again wins by 6, this time in overtime, 82-76. So I guess this tournament is brought to you by the number 6.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, you did forget a little bit about Dietrich. They're the ones that don't have the winning record in the conference. And it's all been about Camas and Richfield. I mean, Camas at 15-5 and Richfield at 19-4. I mean, those two have been the dominant ones, and Dietrich pushes that Richfield team. We'll see if it kind of got their attention a little bit, but they're going to go up against Camas again. And you know, this is a pretty good rivalry here, because they have played 3 times this season, and they were all close. You know, first one Richfield won 57-52, 5-point win there. Camas got the next one, a 5-point win, 44-39. And then in the tournament, it was a 6-point Camas win, 52-46. So, I mean, these games between these two teams are as good as it gets. And the sad part about it is only one team gets to go to state. And I think that either one of them, if they both went, they both could make some noise.
Yeah, and they play tonight, Thursday night at Gooding. Now, if Richfield wins, they got to beat Camas twice. That's the hard part. Camas is the team that has the onus of a little bit of a built-in advantage. And if they were to force that winner-take-all game, that would be Saturday night, 7 o'clock at Gooding. And boy, get your popcorn ready for that.
Yeah.
That would be
must-see TV right there, because, and especially if this one tonight goes down to the wire, final seconds or minute, like it always does, and then they get that 5th game in. Oh man, yeah. And there's nothing else going on. Get your butt over to Gooding and watch some fun 1A D2 basketball.
Yeah, pretty epic for sure. So, all right, that's our tour through the boys basketball district landscape. Next week, Scott, here on the Magic Valley Prepcast, we will have our traditional boys basketball state tournament preview show. We'll do that live probably next Tuesday night on IdahoSports.com's YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. We'll break down all 6 classifications with the IdahoSports.com broadcasters, and then I will take that show and put it into the podcast feed here for the Magic Valley Prepcast.
Yep. So, where are you at for Boys State?
I'm 5A. You and I are flip-flopping. So
we are flip-flopping. I'm going to 4A.
Yep.
So you'll be calling the 5A boys. I'll be calling the 4A boys.
Be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So good luck to all of the Magic Valley teams competing at state wrestling this weekend, and to the final few boys basketball teams that are trying to make their way to state as well. All right. I know you got to go. You got to go start warming up for your performance tonight, Scott.
Yep. I got to go exercise the golden tones, make sure there's batteries in the mic, get the mop bucket ready for any of those incidental spills as I'm talking through the mic, mopping the floor, doing whatever it is that I'm doing at the same time. The grand host never rests.
Athletic director by day, janitor by night, Scott Burton. So appreciate it. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.